Okay, we should be live now. So usual drill, guys, if you can just let us know if you can see and hear us okay. Apologies for being a few minutes late. That was my fault. It's been one of those days today. It's been an absolute mad rush, mad dash all over the place, not to mention everything else that we're going to be talking about this evening. So I just want to double check that we've definitely gone live. Yes, we have. People jumping on already. This software doesn't show, Joy, it doesn't show any comments, unfortunately. So you'll have to trust me on the questions if that's okay. Right. So yes, hello. We've got Ben, we've got Mark, we've got Helen. Just going to go through and say hello to a couple of people. Colin, Darius, Joe, evening, everyone. Good to see everyone. They're all piling in, which is good. We got Riley. So evening, everyone. Cheese joined us as well. So I'm delighted this evening to welcome Joy Williams from Sellerbasics. Joy, welcome. Good evening. Great to have you here.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited.
Good. And we are very happy to have you here. And Joy and I were just talking beforehand, and we were going back and forth on dates a little bit. And, you know, I'd had a hiatus on this over the summer because of my daughter's illness. And I wanted to restart doing it. And so I contacted Joy and I said, what about the 1st of October? Well, I am so thankful that we didn't go with that date, because by pure coincidence, if there was a date that it was fortuitous to have you on, today's that date.
The timing is just like unreal.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm hoping this is going to be a really good thing. It's good to see everyone. There's so many people on here. We're at 50 people already. Hello, Jed. Hi, Emma. Hi, Sean. I'm going to try and say hello to as many of you as possible. Steve, Azar, Sean, thank you. Sean has confirmed, can see and hear. Big changes for the UK sellers next year, or will we get ready early for a surprise Q4? Well, I think that happened yesterday, Sean. So a few little surprises came out of the bag. So I want to jump straight in. This is going to be a busy show tonight. There's going to be lots of questions. So guys, please ask questions as we will go through, and I will try my best to answer them as we go through, but I want to hear from Joy as much as possible. I know some of you do have specific questions that you want to ask, and I know the guys that really do have you know, some active deactivations, and they've asked if they can ask a couple of specific questions, if you don't mind, Joy. And hi, Sylvia. Hi, Rachel. So, but first of all, let's dive in. For anyone that doesn't know you, if you wouldn't mind, just a quick introduction to yourself. So, you know, who are you, what you do with Amazon, and who are Sellerbasics?
So I'm Joy Williams. I'm the director of Sellerbasics. Sellerbasics, if you have not heard of us or worked with us, we are the first Amazon account health protection plan. We offer a monthly membership to our members, which is crazy cheap. And we handle all of the sellers' account health needs. We work with them on their intellectual property complaints, their inauthentics, all those things that put you at risk if you become under Section 3 review, but also most importantly, if you become deactivated and you are a member, it is already covered under your membership. Now, we do work with sellers on deactivations and pending deactivations that are not in our program. It just comes at a higher cost.
Yeah.
So we believe that, you know, your account health is the foundation of your Amazon house. And it doesn't matter how big or how small your Amazon house is. Your account health is the greatest equalizer of all Amazon businesses. As we're seeing now, $70 million a year sellers get suspended, you know, $10,000 a month sellers get suspended. It's all about your account health. So we are wholly focused on account health. It is not an offshoot service. We don't do reimbursements. We don't do PPC. We don't do anything but account health.
Mm-hmm. And it's really, great. It's really interesting what you said there, Joy, as well, because I do think there is still this misconception with sellers in particular that think that Amazon is biased towards small sellers. that it targets the small sellers. But we have a seller on here that comes on regularly, and he's one of the top 10 UK sellers. Like not just, you know, oh yeah, top 10, like top 10 in the whole country as sellers. And he often talks about Amazon don't care if you sell £1 or if you sell £1 million. He says he gets the same treatment as anybody else. And I think that for me is quite sobering, you know, and it's knowing that we all feel victimized sometimes when it comes to selling on Amazon, but it's not. It's simply not. It's the nature of the beast and the way that they work. And that's, I believe, is a very strong understanding when you are a you know, Amazon seller, and that fuels kind of longevity being an Amazon seller is having that understanding, really.
Oh, absolutely. And sellers, you know, they get very upset. I pay $1 million a year in fees. I pay $20 million a year in fees. Amazon doesn't care. And I will tell you, you don't actually have to take either of our words for it. If you listen to the Amazon earnings calls, which are recorded and they're made public, you will always hear Amazon say how many sellers came onto the platform in the previous year or the previous quarter. You will never hear Amazon tell you how many sellers they retained.
Interesting. Yeah.
It is, and it is a, you know, it is a bit of a cyclical business. People come in, they're not prepared for the commitment. They're not prepared for everything that comes with it, you know, or they do it for a little while and then they leave. So it is kind of a revolving door in that way. But a policy is a policy and you have to enforce it across the board. So that is why, you know, there's no shield for being a larger seller that exempts you from those kinds of situations.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing as well. When I said the nature of the beast is so big that they cannot look at the smallest detail, you know, in every individual case. And, you know, one of the biggest complaints I see from sellers, and I am not in any way, shape or form deactivations specialist. I avoid it like the absolute plague. If someone asks me, I happily move them on to someone else. But one of the things I will always say is when they say, I've given them everything they want, well, there isn't. There's generally something that's missing, or it's not fitting the mold and they're not having enough time to go through it, you know, essentially. So there's something off. So it's having that understanding of knowing that however the system, because they don't pull back the curtain. They don't show us, you know, what we need to see. So it's almost like a little bit of a detective that you have to kind of pick out the bones of what they give you and put it forward in that case. And I mean, the obvious question is that fair? No, probably not, because how can you're always fighting against the system, right?
It's not fair, but there is some rationality to it. And I'm not defending Amazon. Don't throw things at your screens.
No,
but you have to remember that the more transparent Amazon is, let's take Section 3's, for example, a Section 3 review or Section 3 deactivation. The more transparent they are about the process, right? And the nuts and bolts of the process. Because what you get in those emails is not all of the steps. It's not all of the knowledge that you need.
The Hive is a group of online sellers. We specialize in Amazon. We're a network, we're a community, and we're all about bringing success to everybody through expert content and resources that you just can't get anywhere else.
The Hive has SOPs, documentation, short videos, clips, long form videos, over the shoulder videos. It has everything you need.
Both for beginners and advanced sellers.
I mean, I probably thought that I knew quite a lot about the selling on Amazon in general, but then when I joined the Hive, it was almost like I only knew 10%.
We keep everything so up to date knowledge, up-to-date strategies.
Natalie, Matt and Johnny will just explain how it works in normal English.
The best part of being in the Hive is a community.
Any question you have, you can put it in the Hive.
And you can get just problem solved so fast.
You can ask a question, there's an answer there within 5 minutes.
We are confident that you are receiving the best level of content out of any training and resource group in the world.
Bad actors will take advantage of that.
Absolutely.
In order to circumvent it, in order to know what, you know, documentation they think they need to manufacture, or, you know, which Amazon will always catch you at that. So Amazon has to play some parts of it close to the vest, because there are a ton of bad actors out there. So if they put it all, it's going to work this way for a review each and every time, then people begin to learn how to circumvent the system.
Yeah, absolutely. And when people talk about some of the unfair sides of, I see people moaning about like OTP, OPT, whatever that word is, access for security. And they're like, how can I get rid of this? I don't want this on my account. I think, really? You don't want that protection on your account, that someone can come into your account and take your money? And again, I have no issue with verifications, re-verifying things, just go through it. That, contrary to popular demand, is for our protection.
Even I get annoyed. I started selling on Amazon in 2012, like in the horse and buggy days.
OG.
When I started selling on Amazon, there wasn't even a seller app, right? Yeah. So really, like horse and buggy. And even now, I have to sell enough, even though, I'm a little busy with my job here, I have to sell enough so that Amazon doesn't deactivate my account under the dormant account policy. And I get annoyed sometimes with the one-time passcode, the two-factor authentication, even though I've seen the dark side. Bad actors really can hack into your account. They really do take the money. And I have a seller who's also a friend of mine. For 2 years, he hasn't gotten his money back. Wow. So when you see the dark side of it, you just have to remember that it really is for your benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talk about that very regularly here. So, on a phrase I often use is, right, don't hate me, guys. I do think Amazon is right here. So rest assured, you are preaching to the choir for sure. So hello to everyone that's joined us. We are 75 strong now. So let's talk. Let's jump straight in. I have got some specific questions. Scott's asked, do you think they will enforce this to further categories later on? Of course, we are talking about the big fat bundle elephant in the room. Let's just dive straight in, because that's what people, want to hear. This is a very long kind of, what I will say, this is a very sort of, this has been bubbling on for a while. It's been going on for a while. Anyone that's in the hive, anyone that I've taught, hopefully you guys will back me up. And I've been saying for at least a year now, the good times kind of are coming to the end. And what we taught 3 years ago is no longer, Amazon terms of service now. And I can't with all conscience say that this is going to be safe moving forward. And we've been trying to navigate, and we've been trying to find new ways around it. Very unhelpfully, Amazon have stayed quiet. There's been a few updates to the bundle policy over the last 18 months or year or so, but, sort of 1 or 2 word line changes, nothing dramatic. And whilst that was the case, we had to go what was written, which was, as long as we felt we were complying with terms of service. And Joy, I hope you'll agree that there are so many contradictions in certain areas of that policy that I actually don't think, hand on heart, and I said this no more than a month ago, I don't think, hand on heart, with the exception of Jeff himself, anybody can stand up and say, this is what you are supposed to do 100%, no questions asked, because there are contradictions. Now, last night, at some point, 2 o'clock in the morning, when I got up and checked my phone, I saw the update that came through. And this has been the biggest update to the bundling policy, certainly I've seen. There are some very clear directions about what can and what can't be done. So just let me catch everyone up. So what it states, and I am nutshelling, please go and read this for yourself. On the US store, so we're geographic. I know, Joy, you've got thoughts on that, so we'll talk about that in a moment. But on the US store, we want to tidy things up. Things haven't been going, the way that we hoped. Moving forward, when you want to bundle, you can bundle, but essentially you're going to be able to have to bundle a specific way under the brand with the brand's permission. I think the only thing I'm still a little bit unclear on is whether or not you can do it with the brand's permission, i.e. letter of authority, or the brand themselves have to do it. I'm not sure if that's quite clarified yet. In consumables, in I think it's 4 or 5 categories: grocery, pet, baby, It's not house, is it? But it's health.
Health and beauty.
Health and beauty. So I think those are the four. So just to clarify for anyone, consumables, because I've been asked this a couple of times today, and not necessarily what you eat or just what's on your face. It's classed as an everyday item. So spray, bleach, makeup, whatever, sort of an everyday item. It's not just consumable you can eat or topical. It's going to be everything that you would consider to, purchase in everyday life over and over again.
Things that are meant to be used up and discarded. So toothpaste, I know, and we clarified even in our group and with some of our sellers this morning about what consumables actually means. Does it mean food? Yes, but it also means in baby, for example. We're like, okay, baby food. No, baby lotion, baby diaper cream. If you buy something with the intent of, because if people were saying last night, I could see, online people were saying, well, why are they using Dawn dish soap? That's not a consumable. Yes, it is.
Yes,
right.
It is.
So there's two definitions of consumable, and this sort of encompasses that. People are like, well, why are they starting with those categories? Because that's where it's the most prolific, right? Grocery is, the catalog has become cannibalized with bundles.
It has.
And registered bundles. And I looked last night, Sellerbasics. I mean, we talked about it for a long time, but we started publicly warning sellers about this 439 days ago from yesterday when they published the policy, for a number of reasons. And so, it's been a long time coming. We've had discussions with Amazon about it, about Amazon's enforcement of it. The bundle policy over the years has changed. When I started selling, the bundle policy was very clear. You couldn't mix brands, right? Which is what happens a lot now with these gift bags and boxes and things like that. You could not, back in my day, you could not mix Kleenex and Puffs or Glade and Air Wick. And that language went away. And that was one of the first stepping stones to where things started to get a little bit icky. And then sellers, started kind of taking it too far. And then they started using Brand Registry to file against other sellers. Now, and that's where we came in.
Yeah, this is a big one. Now, I believe personally, and I have been saying this again, hopefully my hivers will be able to back me up. I've been saying this for at least 3 years. If you're going to use Brand Registry, do not use it against other sellers. I believe, because I've personally worked with people that have had their Brand Registry revoked, due to abuse of brand, and it's very clear. Brand Registry is very clear. You abuse it, you lose it. It's as simple as that. And there is no circumstances in which anybody should be issuing an IP claim for a bundle which includes someone else's product. It's, we've always made that absolutely clear from the start. If it is a gift product with your own items in and your own imagery that you've done, which is your creative rights, obviously things like that, then yes, but I am not an intellectual property, expert or anything, but I believe that's the crux of this. That is where you're absolutely right, Joy. This has started that people have abused the system and Amazon have said, right, that's it. We're going to take it away.
And because brands really do file against sellers, and brands really do go to Amazon, at a certain point, it starts to look like Amazon's complicit, right? I mean, this is not a few listings. There are sellers who, under their grocery Brand Registry, have 5,000-6,000 ASINs just for one seller. So when you look at it, and when sellers, I'm not going to lie to you folks, when sellers who have these Brand Registry bundles would file IP complaints against our members, our appeal to Amazon was very specific. This is Sally Joe's storefront, as evidenced by her merchant token here. Normally, because they would say, Joy Soda Pop, and the email address that they would use to file the IP complaint against the seller was joysodapop@gmail.com. It didn't take a rocket science in most of these cases to figure out who the seller was and really spell out to Amazon that they were violating the brand's, intellectual property and the Amazon policy. And a lot of people would say it's a bundle. And yet they didn't even meet the basic tenets of the bundle policy. Did it say bundle in the title? Did it say in the first bullet point it was a bundle of X number of items? Did it say it was a script? None of that applied, right? And so it's been a long time coming, and we believe that it is going to be enforced platform-wide, regardless of country. I spoke to our founder, Paul Rafelson. We're founded by attorney Paul Rafelson of Rafelson Law, right? And I had a long conversation with him this morning because, even when you said it to me this morning, already people were like, but it's not on the UK site. But there is the spirit of the business services agreement, right? There's the letter and then there's the spirit. And also here in the US, a small number, but a number of large bundling sellers, like 50, 60, $70 million a year sellers, their entire storefronts were taken down. They filed suit against Amazon. They're in arbitration, things like that. So when you talk about a policy, you talk about fairness of enforcement, right? So in the current landscape, do I think that Amazon's going to pick out pockets and say it's okay for you over here or there? I don't. And from our perspective, it's no more correct in the UK from an intellectual property law standpoint than it is in the US, right? It is just not. And the thing is brands really do sue sellers for a number of reasons, right? So listen, unless you have Coca-Cola money, right, to defend yourself, it's just not a road that we think that sellers should continue to go down.
No, I think, brand building in this country, in England, there is a brand that can sell brands, that can build a brand. We have those type of companies and organizations here that do it. And I think, ultimately there's been some lost in translation language, and I firmly believe that it's about when it became sort of mainstream a few years ago. I've been teaching unique bundles for 5-6 years, and it's really come to the forefront, I think, in the last 2 or 3 years, essentially. And I think that's where, what tends to happen is Bob tells Sue, how to do it, and then a little bit gets lost in translation, and then Sue tells Ron how to do it, and then a little bit more. It's like Chinese whispers, right? And it just gets lost in translation, and then everyone's like, oh yeah, but I'm doing it correctly because Bob told me that he learned it from Sue, and Sue learned it from Natalie, so it's absolutely fine. But it's one of those, and it's also perception as well. I can tell to someone and they could take it in a completely different way. I'm personally glad, that there has been a clarification, because there's nothing more risky, essentially, than, being able to or unstable than building on, a weak foundation, essentially. So like I said, I do think there are areas that still need to be cleared up, and we've got a few questions about people asking those. So what I'm going to say is, this is still new. This happened, like 12 hours ago, something like that. Well, more than that, sorry, a bit more than that, 24 hours ago. So there are still things we don't 100% know yet. And let's just catch people up. So this came out in the States. Joy's made it absolutely clear that you think it will spread. I believe it probably will at some point as well. A couple of things we've not had here that have come over from the US. I think, we don't get the Section 3, reviews, essentially, like the US, the ones that came out in Q4 last year, which I was, one of those 356 pages of documents. That was a nice day. Some things don't translate, but we can never guarantee it. So we have to assume that they will. That's fact. We have to assume that they will. So, but where this is slightly different is, whereas we've had this wave of deactivations to do with bundles, but now they've come out, I think, with a slightly softer approach. That's what it feels like, as in, guys, this is the new policy. We kind of maybe let you have Q4 to sell through, some of your stocks. And then we'll give you 30 days. So whilst we still have that looming of, if you violate bundle policy, you could be deactivated, or this, in your opinion, I know probably what I think, but do you think this is Amazon saying, right, there's so many people doing this that we can't just go in like a wrecking ball and deactivate every single person? One, they probably don't have the capacity to be able to do it anyway. Do you think it's fair that that's what it is, that they know that they're beat in a certain area, so they're just trying to do what they can in the first wave?
Well, it is interesting because, they're not known for their benevolence, although, last two Q4s ago, they were going to take down a particular brand, and we got involved, and they were going to take it down because the brand doesn't use GS1 barcodes. They're a mall brand, Bath and Body Works. They're going to take down 5,000 ASINs, which is basically the entire catalog, because they are a mall brand. They have their own UPCs. We were able to intervene and put a temporary stop to that. So there was some benevolence there because that was going into Q4. In this case, what's interesting is, and I'm keeping a close eye on the situation, there are still a number of big sellers who were taken down over the weekend that as of 2:00 in the morning, Chicago time, the last time I checked, their stores were still down. And so, if I'm one of those sellers, I'm like, hey, where's my warning period? Okay. So there's that. They may get to come back for that. But we have also been seeing, as a lead up to this on a case-by-case basis, we have been seeing enforcement, not just against the brand registered stores, but sellers who get on these listings. And it's not just bundles. This applies to any kind of misbranded listing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen cases, I've worked on cases where it's an S that is missing from the name. It's an apostrophe. Right. Yeah. And so they have been sort of taking this same heavy hand with sellers who get on these listings as the ones who create them. So you really have to be careful about what you are listing on. And I also think it's important to note, Amazon said late in Q4. Well, what does that mean? We won't know until it happens. But here's what I can tell you what I think. Do I think that means you're going to get to December 31st? No. Because late Q4, right? When is the end of peak selling, right? Yeah. I think they'd like to have this buttoned up and done by the end of the year. So I think your cutoff period is probably going, I'm speculating. This is speculation that is based on nothing that I know, except my knowledge of Amazon and the way that they work. Do I think that the 30-day clock probably starts around November 15th? I do, at the latest. I think that's where that's going to come into play. I think they want to be hands washed of this by the end of the year. So late in Q4 is an arbitrary phrase, right? But that's where sellers are going to have to keep an eye on their suppressed and at-risk listings.
Yeah, I absolutely think this is purely, like I said, Amazon is not known for their kind-hearted gestures. I think this is purely to suit Amazon. They know how much inventory that they have stocked up in those fulfillment centers, especially in the US. We will talk as though this is in the US at the moment, because that is what the wording, states. And I think that's purely to serve them, to be perfectly honest. They know full well, you're absolutely right, about the 15th. I always say it to people that are selling their own listings or replenishables or seasonal offers. If you can make it past about the 15th, that's good going, to be perfectly honest, because between the 15th and Christmas Eve, sales just, absolutely explode by that point. But I think it's more a case of they know the majority of the stocks that they won't have to send back, destroy, because again, people think that Amazon just sit there on a pile of all the unused stock. They're going to sell it and they're going to make all their money themselves. They're not. It costs them money to get rid of it. They don't want the stock. They would rather it gone, and that's it. So I think you're probably right, and it's probably going to be more along the lines of that. But again, what's the trigger? We know that there are not individual people. So again, something we have to be very, very aware of is what's going to be the trigger? Why is my listing going to get triggered over your listing? Because not everybody's going to get picked up within that time frame. It's as simple as that. So there is always going to be this understanding. And it must be, I suppose, a little bit frustrating from your point of view that you're always going to have somebody saying, well, my listings didn't get taken down, so therefore I'm doing it right.
Oh, absolutely. Here's what I think. Okay. So they've painted themselves into a corner now, date-wise. This is now a game of chess, and here's why. Because they recently said that early in November, they didn't say November 1st, they did say early November, we're going to start deprioritizing the receiving of inbound goods in an effort to get actual orders out. So today is Meltable Day, okay? Plenty
Yes,
of sellers in this position with these bundles those boxes were ready to go yesterday when it came out.
Yeah.
So they have a very small window of time now where those goods have to get in there. I think what we'll see is a tie-in to that situation when they start to deprioritize the receiving of inbound goods, and you are creating a bundle that they know is going to make, a shipment for a bundle that they know they're going to make go away in a few weeks. I do believe we might see some sort of warning.
Yeah.
Your ability to sell this ASIN will expire on whatever date that is. And so there's a lot of moving pieces here.
Yeah, I think a bit like that's how I envisage it would be, the mismatched GTIN barcode. It would come up, like that in your at-risk listings. Essentially that's where I think we're going to start seeing it. Now, we've had a lot of questions about what is going to be acceptable moving forward. Again, there are a few things that are going to be, I said this to Joy beforehand, there is going to be bundling that can be done moving forward. Now, this is too early to 100% say what is and what isn't. I believe there are certain things. I know for sure there will be certain things because we've always taught those type of bundles moving forward. They will continue, regardless. Yes, the majority of iffiness is around brands. But again, there will be a way to move forward with brands, because if there wasn't, there wouldn't be a bundle policy at all. They would have just said no more.
Mm-hmm. It is, and it is going to, the new bundle policy butts into the multi-pack policy, and there's language in there. Sellers have long bought 6 units of something, and 6 individual units are made a 6-pack. That Amazon has, even ahead of this policy yesterday, we have been seeing Amazon push back on that. Sellers, where the denial of their invoice for 6 individual units comes back and says, show us where you bought a 6-pack of this product.
Yeah,
so it really is already happening.
Yeah. So I think recently, like I said, in the Hive, which is where we teach, some of our bundling stuff, we've been saying absolutely I can't remember exactly, that there is no legitimate way to create a multi-pack on Amazon, and unless you are the brand owner. It's as simple as that. So that's something that we've been doing for a while. But at the same time, even I think had a little bit of a lack of understanding of it. It's because Amazon was classing it as one unit, as opposed to a multi-pack, essentially. So the language around that has all changed. What is acceptable, what isn't. I've seen sorry.
I just want to say they were very specific, and I should have taken a screenshot this morning. It's very specific now, where it says you can't take 2 3-packs and make 6-pack. If they want to buy 2 3-packs, then they will. And that's been something that's been done. I mean, it's been done for as long as I've been selling, right?
Yes.
So big changes are afoot in the catalog as a whole, besides just brand registered specific ASINs.
I think, and this is guesswork, like you said earlier, just from your, kind of experience. I'd love to think, now this is Natalie's La La Land in which I'd love to live. I would love to think there is a grey area in terms of an area that's not being served under Amazon, because in America, and especially, you have the first doctrine, right, which is you have technically the ability to be able to sell whatever you want. Now, don't quote me, I'm not American, so I'm sure that it's
so we do have the first sale doctrine, and this is really important because we do have a lot of UK and other country based sellers in our program. And even for sellers who are based in the US, there is a misunderstanding of what the first sale doctrine really means. Overall, does it mean that? In general, yes. But there is case law, very specific case law, that there are exceptions to the first sale doctrine. Warranties being one of them. Okay. Material differences being one of them. If you are taking something and deconfiguring it from the way that it was sold, that is materially different. Okay. It's something that shoe manufacturers in particular use against resellers all the time, right? Or things that with a plug, right? That their warranty does not apply. And many brands didn't used to offer a warranty on their product until this became case law. And now they do, specifically to try to keep resellers from selling their brands. So when you hear people on Facebook, and this is very prolific in the Facebook groups, that they say the first sale doctrine, and again, I'm not an attorney, Sellerbasics is not a law firm, right? But first sale doctrine does not insulate you entirely to allow you to sell.
I think from my point of view, what I was referring to is the gap between the sellers or the brand owners that do not want their products sold on Amazon and the products that don't that are not, sorry, let me rephrase that. The brands that don't care about their products being sold on Amazon, but legitimately sellers cannot put their products on Amazon, and the brand owner is not going to give them a letter of authority saying you can do whatever you want with this. There is no legitimate way on Amazon for me to take this pen, which has an EAN, GTIN barcode on it, legitimately to put it on Amazon and sell it as a Style Bro, whatever it is, highlighter. You know, and you used to be able to do that on Amazon.
It has gotten a lot tougher. I mean, there's listings that live in the catalog right now that I created for brands like Betty Crocker.
Yeah. And absolutely,
so
this
you
is
used to be able to do a lot more than you can now. And that's the thing is,
and that's what I'd love to see Amazon clear up, to say, look, this is a legit product. And I believe that's the reason why the bundling policy got out of hand and got abused, because you would find something on the shelves that is openly in the world of distribution, wholesale, as the way that I kind of see it and have always has seen it. If it's rampant in the supply chain, it's being sold through wholesalers, it's being sold in retailers, it's being sold everywhere. Whilst the brand owner will always retain control, of course they will, it's their brand. But if you are selling it to a wholesaler to be resold, I think the brand loses a little bit of control where it can be sold. And there is no legitimate way. So this is what I would love to see Amazon clear up and do, to say, if you have that EAN code, why can I not put that under the brand? Because that's exactly, you know, what the brand is. It's legitimate. I work with someone that works with one of the largest UK manufacturers of a certain product, and they had a letter of authorization from this person saying they can list on our behalf, they can list under they can do this, they can do that, because it was a collaborative product. Even with that, Amazon, they were manufacturer barcodes, they still wouldn't let them do it. And it was only when I was able to go in and give them the right wording on the listing that allowed them, without, you know, getting suspected IP claims. And, you know, your average sort of brand owner simply isn't going to know that. No. So that's my frustration, because I would love to be able to see, and that's where I think the gap is. And, you know, and I'd love to see Amazon, you know, fill that gap, because otherwise there's no option. So at some point, with all these listings being removed, with this not being fulfilled and everything else being blocked, this was a question I asked you earlier. Will Amazon soften at some point when they see it affecting their pocket, essentially?
I think they'll clarify, because here's the thing. Amazon, third-party sellers, we account for 60% of the goods sold on Amazon. Okay. Yeah. We keep the shelves full. So I think the first thing they're going to do is weed out all the really bad stuff. Okay. Yeah. And then they're going to continue, I think, to clarify in an effort to keep the shelves full. And I said, recently, someone said, when do you think they're going to put SmackDown? I said, right after Prime Day in October. They wanted the shelves to be full last week. Yeah. Okay. Now they've got a little bit of time, a small window of time. And if you think about what happened last year, so suspensions were up somewhat last year, and Section 3 reviews were up somewhat last year. And then on Halloween, it got blown wide open. It started on Halloween last year and October 31st, hundreds, if not thousands of sellers went under review or deactivation. And it continued on. Many sellers set up before. Yeah. Right. It was brutal, 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 brutal. Suspensions and Section 3 reviews are drastically up this year, drastically up. This is the worst I've ever seen it in the 12 years that I've been doing this. Okay. And so I think that the wave of Q4 Section 3s, there's always a wave of suspensions during Q4. Do I think this year's wave is going to be worse than last year? I do, because suspensions are up overall. to begin with.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, over the years, we've been sellers for 8 years, and you do see peaks and troughs where Amazon feels more riskier. Again, I've said this in my lives. We're definitely in the season of Amazon feeling more risky. And that brings us on to, I'll finish up and I'll wrap up on the bundle stuff. So I think we've covered it as much as we can in terms of, we still don't know certain things, guys. I will be going into more specifics in the Hive in terms of what can be done and what can't be done moving forward. I want to take advantage of not just Joy's expertise on the bundling side of it, but deactivations and suspensions as a whole, because we're talking about bundles at this right moment in time because it came out last night. We weren't even going to cover this conversation. No. we were going to cover deactivations and suspensions specifically. So I want to get onto that, because as much as bundles is taking up a lot of this time in this live, it's a small part of obviously what you guys do, what you experience. And, we're feeling the bundles at the moment because of what's going on. But further clarification will come, as Joy said. We will clarify it more in terms of what we think safe. And I said to you as well, I will be the first person when I don't think something's safe, I will say no more. And that clarification will come for you guys in the Hive, because, that's where we talk about bundles. So rest assured, anyone that's part of that, we will absolutely cover that. But there is a way forward. I want people to know that we know at the moment that we'll get further clarification. So let's talk about, standard. I want to be respectful of your time as well, Joy, because I know how busy you are, especially right now you probably got about 400 messages in your inbox by the time we get
I thought my phone was actually going to burst into flames yesterday.
Yeah, blow up. Absolutely. And I'm really sorry. I've got to say, for anyone that tried to contact, I had a little joke with Hayden earlier. My daughter was in hospital today, and we were in there all day. We were in there I literally hot-footed it here and got here 10 minutes before we went live tonight. And he said the irony of the person that, does the most bundles in the UK not being available to be able to talk to people on this day is horrendous. So I do apologize, but I would have done, but my daughter was having an operation, 1, so obviously that takes priority. And 2, where she is in the hospital in England, in Southampton, is the world's biggest internet black hole. It's unbelievable. You just cannot. So I would get a bit of signal, and then I would call someone, or I'd do a voice note and I'd speak to someone, and then out for an hour again, and obviously I can't leave the hospital. So yeah, apologies if you did contact me and I haven't got back to you today. I'm really sorry. It was just sod's law, I'm afraid, unfortunately. So let's just have a quick look. Riley has said, what are your thoughts? So this is a bit of I don't know where this question's come from. What are your thoughts on Amazon supposedly removing their connections with certain vendors that are considered too small?
There has been a lot of talk about what has happened to the, with the 1P vendors and that they have broken ties with. I think that a lot of people have said to me, it seems like smaller vendors, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that Amazon's an animal, right? And it's like 100 octopuses put together, right? There's tentacles everywhere. Yeah. And the more things kind of have gotten out of control for Amazon themselves, and the more regulatory proceedings that they have going on now, Amazon has said, maybe we need to thin the herd a little bit and get our arms more around what we are doing here, right? Yeah. And also, I think that there are ebbs and flows to the kind of products Amazon wants to sell directly. I think there is some influence on that from, if you did not hear, our Consumer Product Safety Commission determined that Amazon was liable for the products being sold.
Yes. And which they'd always denied.
Yes, children's pajamas, hair dryers, CO2 detectors, and something else. But just in those 4 categories, that was 400,000 products, over 400,000 products. So if you're Amazon, right, you have to say, and I will say that the day after that news came out, we did see a lot of listings come down for other products that Amazon might consider risky, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of products for things like derma rollers with the needles that go in your face and
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
Things that may, and so I think on the 1P side, Amazon may just be slimming down a little bit. I don't think it's pointed. I know everybody's up in arms. It's because they want to go, directly this way or directly that way. Well, okay, but they're allowed to do that. Do I think, like most things, the sudden pulling of the plug is appropriate? No, like not at this time of year. In particular, as a person, who sold on Amazon for years, do I think it's appropriate to pull the rug out from someone when we know that for a lot of sellers, Q4 planning started back in February?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I find that to be more than unfortunate. And it's an area that, I've had conversations with Amazon myself directly, like at the top. Predominantly, most people are like, oh, it's Friday, it's the weekend. Not me, because Friday has generally, for the last couple of years at least, been suspension day. Most suspensions are 72 warnings. 72-hour warnings would come out on Fridays.
That's so cruel.
And I would wake up on Friday morning. I'd be like, here we go. Let's see. And I had a conversation with Amazon at the beginning of this year. And I said, you understand that the departments that review these 72-hour warnings in some of these cases and these suspensions do not work the weekends.
No, send them on
why? By Monday morning, the 72 hours is come and gone. And they really were very kind about it. And they were like, wait, what? And I was like, yes, like, trust me. And so we have seen a shift. First, it was like, okay, here comes a crop on Thursday. And now we have seen a greater, they come on every day of the week now, which is the right move. With the 72-hour warnings, Friday afternoon, by Monday, they're already suspended. So I think it's unfortunate timing, but with the 1P vendors, that's they can do that, unfortunately.
Yeah. I do believe we discussed it at the very start that yes, there's no discrimination, and what does it matter anyway? The only thing I suppose you've got, if you see a smaller brand going, you've got a chance to go to them to make some sort of brand exclusive deal and maybe sell on their behalf. There's loads of opportunity. Just because one door closes on Amazon, it doesn't mean another door doesn't open. They are still and will still be the biggest retailer in the world for at least the next 10 years, So I think it's, we always look at things in such a negative. I think unfortunately, there are a huge amount of people that are going to be affected by the bundles. But like last night, that wasn't the only thing that came. A wave of restrictions. One of our friends in another community, 25 grand on stock.
No, I know who you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah.
He's one of our members, actually.
Yeah.
So, and that is something I want to say, a lot of people, we cannot help with ungating. And from what I have seen, it is predominantly sellers based outside of the US, whether it's the UK or Canada or wherever, from sellingon.com.
Yeah.
And I think Amazon's answer to a lot of sellers, unfortunately, is going to be, well, then sell it on, the UK site.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I know that the volume and all that is not the same, but I think that's going to be Amazon's answer. They really, hard gating comes every Q4.
Yeah, it comes every Q4 regardless. Yeah, we have it here. We haven't had our wave here yet in the UK. So, and it happens in the UK. I think there just feels like there's so much of everything going on in the US at the moment. It's all US. Rest assured, guys, if this is your first Q4 or if you got through Q4 last year without a hard gating, that is for sure.
Every year.
Okay. And it happens every year. Amazon loves spoiling everyone's Q4 for sure. I want to go back to Debbie's question and then just a couple more, if you don't mind, Joy. Let's talk about one of the other things I really wanted to cover, because I think in all of this, and I've been preaching this for a really long time. Yes, there's people that love the fact that, bundles has gone, people love getting their pitchforks and their torches out and saying, get rid of these people. Even the people that are doing it legitimately, or certainly up until last point are doing it legitimately. But at the same time, my argument's always been there are so many misbranded listings on Amazon, and don't crow too loud, because you can find yourself on one of those listings essentially. So just your clarification, like Debbie said here, can we confirm that if you've got something down like MAC, MAC for the makeup, or M.A.C. it's always having that understanding of knowing what is the legit brand and how to find the associated barcode with it, right?
Correct.
And that's got to be standard due diligence for any resellers now.
Yes. And this is something we have been telling sellers since a year ago, June.
Mm-hmm.
A year ago, June, sellers started getting suspended for being on misbranded listings.
Yeah.
And sellers and branded products that say generic. The generic has been cut way back. And I think they will continue to cut, call the category, the catalog. But sellers are still getting suspended and or getting violations for being on this misbranded. And sometimes it's as simple as an apostrophe or, missing S. Last year, during the height of the Q4 Section 3's, there were a number of sellers that are on, it's a 2-pack listing for product. The brand name is Beverly Hills MD, HILL with an S at the end, okay? The 2-pack listing that has been up for years says Beverly Hill MD.
Wow,
Probably works with at least 20 sellers on that one ASIN alone that went under Section 3 because it was misbranded. Okay. And Amazon is pushing on this every single day. And brands are filing against those listings every day. Right. So it's in some cases, Amazon will give you a warning shot. We think this is a suspected intellectual property claim. And in some cases, they will deactivate you. And in some cases, they're sticking to their guns and making it a permanent deactivation. So it is not enough for you to say, I didn't create that listing. You are responsible for the contents of every ASIN that you list in your inventory. And this is what trips a lot of sellers up. Sellers will always say, I don't have invoices, Joy. I was just testing it. There's no such thing as testing. Do not put any ASIN into your inventory that you do not have that product, because there's nothing worse than getting a violation for a product you don't even have. Can't get out of a violation when you don't have invoices. That's its own violation. Now it opens the door to a permanent deactivation because you listed something that you didn't have.
Yeah. So again, I think that is such a clever point to make, because I've seen that. I didn't even sell it. I didn't even, doesn't matter. It's the second it's touched the sides of your inventory, just test it in the water. And I've even seen people put it on their delete and they've still. So if you put it into your inventory in any way, shape or form, if you list it on Amazon, you've got to have an invoice. So I don't care if you're going to sell it, go and buy them anyway and get the invoice. That's the important thing. So we've had a few people deactivated recently. I know Mark's one of them as well. And Victorious is addressing authenticity concerns for the seller account and have contacted the brand and the retailer for proof of authenticity, but not received any responses. How can I obtain a letter of authorization for the products? That's a bit of a sort of question. You just really need to contact them. I actually cover that, Vic, specifically in the Hive. So I've got some really good templates and proven templates on how to get letters of authorization for them. But he's also asked, without the letter of authorization for authenticity, and again, I think this could be a bit of a misconception, will the plan of action not be considered for authenticity?
People will often say, I'm dead in the water, I don't have an LOA. 99.999% of the things that we get resolved do not involve an LOA.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's the same sort of misconception as Amazon doesn't take receipts. Yes, they do. It says invoice most often, but it also in the policy says invoices or receipts. So the thing is when it comes to authenticity, it comes down to your sourcing and your documentation. Now, does Amazon sometimes deny, even though it's sourced directly from the brand? Yes. We have a number of methods that we use for like a buyer authenticity complaint, various appeals. A lot of sellers take pictures of their items. We can show Amazon, especially if they have a picture of the tag, here's a GS1, etc. When it comes to IP complaints that brands have filed against you, we do not think that sellers should be reaching out to those brands directly. Let me tell you how Sellerbasics handles it on our members' behalves, and some of the pitfalls that if you're not working with Sellerbasics that you should be aware of. Okay, if you are a member and you get an intellectual property complaint like trademark or counterfeit filed against you, we do two things simultaneously. Our account health team will write the appeal for you to submit to Amazon. Okay. And our network attorneys will reach out to the brands on your behalf to try to get a retraction. And we do those two things together for a couple of reasons. Not every appeal is going to get accepted, and not every claim is going to get retracted. And sometimes retractions can take time. Amazon needs to see you working on that. Okay.
Yeah.
And so the thing that we see all the time, and I'm begging you guys not to do it. I will give you an example. Seller gets a counterfeit complaint filed against her by the brand. Here's what I said. I went before she came to us. Here's what I said to the brand. She sends me over her emails. Dear such and such brand, I am so sorry. I didn't mean to sell a counterfeit product. Da, 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 da. Please forgive me. Can you please retract this? Da, 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 da.
Yeah, I do that 100%.
She bought it from the brand. It's not counterfeit. When you tell a brand, when you apologize to Amazon or you apologize to a brand for selling counterfeit, you are admitting to a crime.
Yeah. Well, actually, I must say, sorry, I just will clarify. I maintain that it's authentic, but apologize to them for selling it, without their permission, kind of thing.
You want to really be careful about what you say to a brand. And so sometimes what happens is brands will start to play along with you. Oh, just prove to me that it's authentic. And when you give them your source, sometimes that's it. They're fine. Sometimes they will go to your source. We've had this happen where they've gone to the source and said, if you keep selling to resellers like this, we will stop allowing you to buy our products. Like a major retailer here in the Midwest. The other thing that happens is when they don't like your source, now they have something to lean on to say, these are gray market goods. These are outside of the, for sale doctrine. The warranty doesn't apply. You have to be very careful when you are communicating with a brand, because everything you have to know, again, you're being accused of a crime, but brands really do sue sellers all the time. They sue Amazon sellers. Anyone who tells you, to throw all your brand threat letters away, they don't really do anything. It's just garbage. That is not true. Asics, the shoe brand, sues sellers all the time, right? You have to know that something else could come further down the line. And so it's one of those situations. If you had been accused of murder, right, would you defend yourself? Or would you get
not the first time?
Yeah, would you, right? Would you get some expertise, right? And so in our case, when it comes to these intellectual property complaints, that's where our network attorneys come into the picture.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm quite happy to say I'm a member of Sellerbasics, and I hope it's a service that I will quite happily pay for that I don't want to use. It's that type of service. It's like in England, well, it's the same as everywhere. We all pay for car insurance. Probably if we had a choice, do we want to pay for car insurance? But no, it's there should we need it. But none of us actually want to use it. So Sellerbasics is absolutely that type of service. And I know for sure now, and this has been my language, talking about those seasonal times where it feels more risky selling on Amazon. If anybody asks me now, and it's my standard answer, and it's not me being awkward, it's not me trying to shirk, people in my DMs to not want to help them. I would love to be able to help people, but I truly believe now any type of, any type of account health issue has to be handled in a certain way. And that leads me on to, Mark, I will ask you a question, I promise, but I just want to ask Joy this one more thing, because I'm really conscious of time, is you can get it wrong, right? And it's a mistake. Personally, I think it's a mistake at all to handle a deactivation Section 3 review yourself. Now, we still handle a lot of our IP claims and things like that, because we think is a pretty good way of success rate of dealing with those. But there is this misconception, myth, urban legend, whatever you want to call it. One, that you get a certain amount of goes, and your first or second response is the most important. Fill us in on that. What if I got no, don't say this. Last time I said that.
Nope, don't say it out loud. If that terrible thing happens, if that awful terrible thing happens.
The last time I had a suspensions expert on. So
I can't have that on my conscience.
Yeah, no, I know. If somebody was to be deactivated tomorrow, what is one, the worst thing they can do, and two, what is that misconception about? Should they pass it straight over? You know what I'm trying to say.
So the worst thing that you can do is just run right into appealing, right? And going it alone. Of course, we don't think sellers should go it alone.
No,
right?
I don't.
So there is also, though, there is a misconception that you only get X number of tries, right? And the number, regardless of, it's not true. Some things get resolved on the first appeal. Some things get resolved on the 20th appeal. Now, does there come a point for some people where Amazon will say, we may not respond to further emails about this, or our legal department made this decision, it is final? Yes. Does that mean it's final? Yes, generally it does. But especially the more complicated the issue, right? Your job is to be a seller, right? Like that's what you do day in and day out. What we do is this day in and day out, right? So sellers will often do what I call a kitchen sink appeal, right? They get into the mindset that Amazon wants a plan of action. And so they start throwing everything but the kitchen sink into their appeal. Okay, we're sorry, we violated this, we did that, we won't do this. Most of that stuff doesn't apply to they're just hoping to push Amazon's buttons to get the right wording and something will work. But you're admitting you've done things you haven't done.
Yeah.
Stop doing that, right? And so, and again, this is another area where we see people apologizing for selling counterfeit goods. Or they are telling Amazon, like, documentation can be a train wreck for a lot of sellers, right? Part of what we do is help you to prepare those documents. And what I mean by prepare is put them together in an orderly fashion so that they are clearly labeled and that you have everything Amazon is asking for. If it's online arbitrage, you need the order confirmation. You need the shipping confirmation. You need tracking and delivery. If you do a lot of OA, every tracking, every time you get an order, you should be clicking and it's delivered. Click on it, turn it into a PDF, because Amazon is standing on business. They want to see that it got delivered. The other thing is they're asking you for those credit and bank account statements to prove you made those purchases. So if you are paperless, just know that not every bank makes your, most banks and credit card companies will email you and tell you it's available in your account. Most sellers don't download them. And then when something comes up later down the road, they don't have a copy of it, right? Yeah. So if you are paperless, every month you should be downloading every single one of your statements. The other thing is stop over annotating your documents.
Yeah.
We see this with bank statements. We see this with receipts and invoices. They have highlighted everything but the kitchen sink. Somebody sent me an order confirmation for something they were under review for a wrong item received, and have 14 red arrows on it. Wow. It was one product on there, 14 red arrows. This is my address. This is my, we see a lot of that. This is my address. This is how it's registered. This is it. Stop doing all of that. The other thing is you really just need to circle or highlight the item.
Yeah.
Do not use, for a black and white scan, do not use black ink. Okay. And some sellers, regardless of what we tell them, you do not need to edit it in Adobe or whatever to include the ASIN next to the item. You don't need to do that.
Yeah.
If you are going to do it, regardless of what we tell you, stop doing it in black and white. It looks like you manipulated that receipt or that invoice to include it.
Yeah, and
people get permanently deactivated for that all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen people permanently deactivated for that, for sure, because it's like a manipulation of documentation. So Mark's just said, I'm deactivated for authenticity concern. I have supplied Amazon with everything that they've asked for. What else can I do? I also had an email from .com as well as .co.uk. Is it possible I should do my appeal via .com instead of .co.uk? He's a UK seller, UK-based UK seller.
If he's UK, so are you predominantly selling on, this is where UK.com gets, there are some sellers who are registered in the UK and they sell in the UK, and their UK account has a US arm, but they're also registered in the US, and their US account has a UK arm. And it gets you have to find the root of the account where this issue started. Okay.
So Mark, I know, is a UK-based seller selling on .co.uk.
Okay. So in the cases of authenticity, when you've given Amazon every piece of documentation, it often comes down to whether or not they like your source. There is a source, and I'm not going to say it because, you know, we try to be very careful, but they are a big cosmetics distributor, wholesaler, and I use that term loosely. And Amazon has suspended a number of sellers who purchased from this place. None of them are getting their accounts back.
Oh, is their initial SV?
No.
Does it begin with S?
No, it begins with a C.
Oh, begins
2 words, begins with a C.
2 words, begins with a C. Right.
I'm not going to say it because
Yeah.
I think you put your videos on YouTube, and I'm not
Yeah.
going to say it publicly because I'm not going to have somebody sue us
No.
for disparaging
Fair
them.
enough.
All I
Fair
can
enough.
tell you is in our experience, this particular supplier, and this happens a lot with wholesale and distribution places, where there's a number of sellers that are deactivated. What I would say, Mark, is, you know, you can email me at hello@sellerbasics.com and we can talk about it for free. And I will tell you if I think that you stand a good chance. If it is a supplier that I already know that Amazon is never going to back down, I will tell you that. That's why if you go to our website, you'll notice people ask us all the time, which is why I'm throwing it on there. You can sign up for our $99 a month membership. What you can't do is to push a button and pay our $2,700 pre-existing suspension fee.
Yeah.
We vet every single case that we take, and we do not take cases because we do have to charge that fee if we don't think that there's at least a reasonable chance of a successful outcome. We just won't do it. There are services that will, but we aren't one of them. So I will take a look, Mark, for you and let you know if I think that you have a chance of, you know, or if it's something where I'm like, here's the problem, you know.
Yeah.
I'm
And
not going to do that.
lovely. And that's very generous of you, Joy. So I would, you know, but I always say this when people make this sort of offer, please be respectful of Joy's time. She is not going to be your personal, and I'm not directing this at Mark or anything like that. This is anyone that's watching this now or in the future. Don't take the mick. It is, you know, be respectful of someone's time and pay for expert advice if you want that expert advice. Now, Noreen has asked exactly the same thing. Well, not exactly the same thing, but I think you've just answered it, which was, what if you provided all the invoices? It's all correct, but you can't verify the origin of the invoice. Again, one of those things, it's probably coming down to they don't like the
supplier
supply chain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, you know, the responsible sourcing documentation policy says your product must be able to be traced invoice wise all the way back to the brand or manufacturer, even if you didn't buy it from them.
Yeah.
A lot of folks find themselves in situations where they have bought from places where that's just not the case, or they can't get the documentation. Now, the other thing that sometimes happens is sellers are standing on business. I'm right, that this is a good supplier, and why won't they accept it? And we take one look at it and we go, because you bought a 3 ounce, but you listed it on the 6 ounce. You're not going to get through it when you're trying to convince Amazon that you bought the 6 ounce item when you bought a 3 ounce. You have to address that in your appeal. We see a lot of that. That is part of what comes with Sellerbasics. That's why we have our submission forms in our portal. And we require copies of your receipts or invoices. It's confidential, but the first thing we do is look at the listing and look at what you bought.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We are able sometimes to prevent sellers from putting themselves in a position of becoming permanently deactivated. There are a lot of sellers who buy things like air filters, water filters, replacement parts for this, that, or the other, and they will buy a replacement part, you know, compatible with fits, you know, Dyson, Whirlpool, whatever. That's not a branded, and they get on a branded listing. You give Amazon those invoices, very often you're going to get deactivated, or that they bought from a third-party seller on Walmart or Target. You give Amazon those invoices, you're going to get permanently deactivated because you can't buy from other third-party sellers. So there's a number of things that get that come with what we do that, you know, we can look at something sometimes and see a problem that sometimes sellers are too close to something, or we're aware of a situation. You know, there's certainly on the .com site, there are FDA issues.
Yes.
Things that are not labeled for sale in the US is a big thing.
Yeah.
Misbranding in certain categories, right? Medical supplies and devices and things like that. A misbranding is now beyond an Amazon policy. It is now under FDA regulations. It is misbranded under the FDA regulations. For a medical product, that's a big deal.
Yeah, that's like a double whammy, right? You know, it's double.
So there are a lot of nuances to these situations that, you know, in some cases there are lawsuits going on behind the scenes where, you know, a brand may have sued, bless you.
Excuse me. Thank you.
A brand may be suing sellers, right? And sometimes those are file lender seal, but they've subpoenaed Amazon to find out who sellers are. So sometimes Amazon is aware of things that you may not be, right? Yeah. And sometimes that comes later. So that's why on our website, there is actually an inquiry form specific to deactivations and pending deactivations. We will ask you what happened, and you send that form, and our team will say, okay, can we see the Amazon notice and the purchase documents? And we will, if something is, you know, there are certain suppliers that we won't take the case because we know that Amazon has suspended X number of sellers and has not backed down for any of them.
Yeah. And they
yeah.
That sucks, unfortunately. Right. These are all questions related around the service, which hopefully you don't, well, not all questions. They're pretty much, how much does it cost? How much does it cost? And does account deactivation come included with the monthly subscription, which I think you already said it does. Yeah. So, and of course, a big thing is the sub is in dollars, but does it cover .com and .co.uk? If you could just that.
So it is $99 USD per month. There is no, you can sign up for an annual membership. Plenty of sellers do, but it is $99 a month. And it kind of works like a Netflix subscription. There's no contract. There's no minimum number of months, right? Now, does that mean if you sign up and we fix some stuff for you this month, and then before you bill next month, you say, okay, I quit. And then 3 months from now, you like want to come back, and it's not a revolving door, right? Because again, it's not insurance, but it works on that insurance, you know, model. We call it assurance. If you sign up today and you got, you know, tomorrow, that is already covered.
We're not going to say the word anymore.
We're not going to say the word. But if that happened, you are after 1 day of membership, your suspension is covered, and your pending deactivations are covered. Plenty of sellers go under a Section 3 review. Some of them will get suspended. Some of them will not. But we give as much guidance and input on and assistance to that process for those video verifications of the Section 3 as we do as though you are already suspended, because we're trying to keep you from getting suspended. That's all included in the membership.
Okay, so if, oh God, how do you say this without tempting fate? If someone has it, it happens. There is, regardless of the severity, there is not an extra fee once you're under the monthly sub.
Correct. Now, there are some cases that go beyond the scope. Sellers who were caught up in the stolen goods matter.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
So criminal.
When you get into a real criminal or really legal, where then our network attorneys are going to have to do, you know, more in-depth legal work on your behalf. That is, you know, if a brand is going to sue you, or, you know, you really were buying counterfeit and you sold it and they're coming after, once it becomes a much more significant legal matter, right, then you get a discount with the network for, you know, law firms, but you can still have a free call, right? So the other benefit is that you can have a free call with our network attorneys, right? So in that case, they would say, here's what I think your odds are. Here's what litigation might cost you, things like that, right? But also, and this is true for a lot of UK sellers, they're like, well, I want to register on .com, but do I get an LLC? Do I get it in Delaware, Wyoming? I was an LLC. Somebody said I should be an S Corp. Paul is also a tax attorney and tax professor. You can have a free call with Paul and run by your tax questions to him. Okay. Oh, wow. So our network attorneys will review your brand threat letters, right? So the way this service works is there is no limit to the amount of assistance that you can get. At the $99 a month price point, we ask sellers to keep it at 5 open matters at a time, which means if you have 5, you know, things that you get after you sign up, right? And we're working on all 5. As soon as we close one out, we resolve something, then you can open another one, right? If we have sellers that are selling, you know, tens of millions of dollars, they're on a different program, right? When we start working them, we determine together what their needs are, then we set the appropriate price point, right? So if you're a seller who's like, well, I always need 10 open matters, then it's really 99 times 2, right? Yeah. There's no surcharge for that situation. So there are sellers. I mean, I have a seller who recently came into our program. She was in 2 days and she got suspended for a counterfeit with a test buy.
Wow.
So we got that taken care of. She got her account back 2 weeks later. She got a different counterfeit with a test buy, got suspended all over again, right? So it does happen. There are sellers in in our program that in 9 months were under 3 different Section 3's.
Yeah.
It is not a one per customer when it comes to that. Now, if you are doing something that is getting you in these situations, and we always will say, hey, this is not a great idea. Hey, you should be, but if you are willfully breaking, the rules, that's a different conversation, right? There's a limit to that. So that is all included in the membership.
Cool. And I love it. It's similar to the Hive. There's one price for all. That's it. There's no, there's no kind of messing about apart from if it's an open case when they contact you.
Yeah, that used to drive me crazy. Back in say 2015, 16, every service provider in the Amazon space, your pricing depended on what your sales revenue was. Your sales revenue is none of our business. It has nothing to do with our pricing. Now, if your needs, your account health needs are higher because of your sales volume, that's a different thing. But it's not like, if you're selling $100 million, then you're $500. We just don't work that way.
No, that's fair enough. And I think that's a great way to deal with it. Andre is tempting fate by using the D word there. He's going full on like Voldemort. Who must not be named. I think that's what we need to do. Do you deal with IP claim? Yeah, it's all account health issues. So everything like that.
I'm sorry, I should have clarified the pricing. If you come to us and you join the program today, and you have pre-existing inauthentics or IP complaints that you want our help with from before you joined, there is a pre-existing fee of $149. But the way that we do that is we have you fill out the form. Mm-hmm. Listen, if it is a brand where I'm like, Amazon never is going to accept your invoices because they didn't come right from the brand and that's what they're asking for. And we know that, 40 of our other sellers got this thing and they've said they're not going to retract. We're not going to charge you the fee to tell you that. On a case-by-case basis, if we think that we can help with it, then we'll say, okay, here's the link to pay the $149 fee.
Yeah. No, so that's the way you got to look at it, guys. If you're clean as a whistle, 99 quid. If they're, no, not pounds, $99. And if you've got some skeletons in your closet, it might cost a little bit more. So just
if you want us to work on it. If you don't, if you're like, look, I beat this dragon to death, I don't care anymore. It doesn't prohibit you from signing up. You don't have to be all goose eggs on your account health page to sign up.
That's fair enough. And just Cindy's asked, this is a great question, actually. Are US sellers more likely to get issues? Now, I know what I feel about this. I do feel the US is a riskier market than the UK. But what's your thoughts?
We actually, excuse me, sorry, I'm just getting over the flu. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
We actually do have a lot of UK-based sellers in our program. And I would say that it's not a situation where being a UK-based seller, insulates you from anything. There are a lot of UK sellers who actually end up having sometimes more issues, right? Because they are buying a UK version of a product or a UK labeled version of a product.
No, sorry. I think it's Cindy meant if you sell in the UK and you're UK and you're UK based. So is the UK market less risky than the US? Because I think the US
only
is
slightly.
I think it's more associated with litigation and suing.
Yeah.
And,
right. I mean, here's the thing is, there are many brands who don't reach across the pond to sell because then they have to hire lawyers who are, solicitors to practice in the UK and things like that. Mm-hmm. So, however, though, in terms of policy violations and internal Amazon deactivations, you're just as much at risk. In some cases, more so, because what happens is somebody will create a listing with the US version of a product, and what they're selling is the UK version or vice versa. That is something that gets sellers into a little bit of a hiccup. And sometimes you get, as you've seen, some of the emails, they say, I think one of the questions is, I'm getting emails from the UK Amazon about my suspension and .com. It all falls under the same umbrella in many cases. So sometimes what happens is you're going to get a US based rep who is reviewing your case, they don't know what Boots is. They don't know that Boots is Walgreens here, right? And so, or they don't know what your receipts are supposed to look like if you are doing stuff from a brick and mortar store. You know, no more than a UK-based rep might know what my local grocery store's receipts look like. So there's a little bit of that. But we do have, you know, we've worked on suspensions for UK-based sellers. It does get a little trickier because many UK sellers are selling on .com and don't know it.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's that. It is one of those things I think that we will see, you know, I will say that, how do I say this carefully? There are areas in which the UK government, I think, protects Amazon sellers a little bit more than you know, here being a reseller is still a dirty word, right?
Yeah.
But so I think you guys kind of have that going for you. But when it comes to Amazon, it is still their sandbox. And I think that what we'll probably see is them enforcing some of these policies, like the bundle policy, more across the board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think there might be a situation where there's going to be some wake up calls because they haven't enforced some of this stuff for you guys in the past.
Yes, and you know, it's one of those things we always await, you know, those lovely surprises from Amazon, and that's what we've got to do. That's, you know, that's why you guys, you know, that are in the hive, we will prepare. It's as simple as that. Johnny has said he's been with Sellerbasics, as have I, over a year. Great value, peace of mind, absolutely. So anyone that wants to sign up, you know, what's the best way to do it? I know a couple of people have asked about discounts. Now, right, I am the world's, anyone that knows me knows this, I'm the world's worst affiliate. I don't have a code. I don't have a
okay,
you know,
so this is what I will do. You and I, after this call, we'll work out a code word for your coupon. I will create a coupon for your group that will take $10 off per month, and that's for as long as you remain a member.
Oh, cool. There we go.
It's not like an introductory offer. So then it would be $89 USD. We usually use some variation like of a group's name. I can't use buy box because of, we're part of the Amazon service provider network.
Yeah, no, I get it.
You could go into your Seller Central and find us, right? If you were looking in the apps and things. So we're contractually obligated, as is actually everything. Buy box is, you know, trademarked by Amazon. So I can't use that, but you and I will come up with a word that you can share with the group that will take that $10 off per month. And then you can post it in your group.
Yeah. Andre says, do you take people that do bundles? I hope so, because that's
the thing. We do have and this is why it's been a hot button issue for us. We have a lot of sellers who've been doing this, and we have a lot of sellers who've been doing this, you know, at a big scale. If it is a situation, so the answer is yes, but if what you're doing with your bundles becomes really evident that you are way outside of that policy, right? There's only going to be so much that we can do for you.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if you become suspended over it, we're going to do our best, but you have to know that Amazon so far has not, even for sellers with an LOA from the brands that say, there are some, I've seen them that say they can even put their own brand name on it. I don't care, signed big giant brand. Amazon was like, too bad, too sad. So the answer is yes, but it may come to a point where there is only so much that we can do, because some sellers are going to continue to do what they're going to do. They're going to try to find ways around it. If you are purposely circumventing Amazon's policy, then that, you know, our terms of service, our membership agreement says that you'll abide by Amazon's terms of service and all local, federal, et cetera, laws. So, you know, that's where it kind of gets tricky.
No, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, of course, because I think the hard thing is as well, because, you know, where does the line stop? You know, some of these guys have been doing this for, you know, 2-3 years. And when it was created 2-3 years ago, it was acceptable, but it's not acceptable today. You know, that's a difficult line to draw. And unfortunately, again, you know, I was talking about my highlighter earlier. That's what I would love to see Amazon do. Yeah. Is to say, okay, we recognize this isn't acceptable now, but it was at the time, because they also tell you can't change anything. So you stop between a rock and a hard place. So, but you know, these guys will absolutely do their best. And you guys know us, we're not, we invite people on like Joy to come and tell us about their services. We're not biased in any way. A lot of the time I'm rubbish. I don't ask for affiliate codes or things like that, or because I'm just rubbish at that. I just want people to have the best service at the best price. And, you know, so, oh yeah, Kay says 60. They're doing the conversions to pounds. Here we go on the comments.
I don't know it off the top of my head. I just was gonna. So how we'll do is we will make a code for you for.
We'll pop it in the group, guys.
Yeah, we'll probably make it.
Yeah, I think it does, Paulina. So of course we have all the European marketplace attached to .co.uk. I take it covers that as well, or
say that again. I'm sorry.
We have all the European marketplaces.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we have sellers who are based in Italy. I mean, I have sellers in, you know, Thailand and New Zealand and Australia. I'm just telling one of my team members to set up a coupon. It'll take a few minutes and I'll let you know when it's done, but we're going to use the word, your coupon code will be beyond.
Beyond. I like that.
I was just staring at him like, well, hello, Joy. Just beyond. And so, you know, the thing is that's part of also what comes with your membership is if you're a bundled seller, I mean, we have these conversations with sellers all day, every day, and have been for the last year and a half. And you say, is this within the terms of service? Am I doing this right? Is there a way to fix this one? You know, those are all questions you can ask under your membership. Yeah. We are not waiting for you to crash your Amazon car and then we're going to come running down the street to help you. Our goal is to be your account health partner that says before you leave the house, hey, put on your seatbelt, right? Careful, it's slippery out there, it's raining. You know, it doesn't behoove us to be reactionary. Our goal is to try to teach sellers how to avoid some of this is unavoidable. Any brand can do whatever they're going to do, and you know, buyers can complain and things like that. Some of this will be beyond your control, but we believe that it, you know, behooves all sellers to try to learn the things that they can to do to avoid some of these. That's why, like, we have a Facebook group. It is open to everybody. It is not, you don't have to be a member to be in there. We don't use it to advertise. We use it to post warnings. You know, last night the warning went up. You can look back and see some of the warnings we've given about misbranded. You know, there's examples in there and things to look out for and things like that. That's what we use our group. That's what we use our Instagram for is, hey, look out. We're not, you know, we're not out there dancing on an Instagram reel holding a sign that says sign up now. That's just not what we do. Yeah. We are wholly focused on the account health.
No, absolutely. And I can't, Mark said it earlier. I love it when a company knows there's worth, doesn't hide it, doesn't try and have any hidden, you know, costs and things like that whatsoever. And I completely agree. Like I said, I am a happy Sellerbasics customer. And this was never about selling the service. This is, I truly believe for anyone, I've been doing this 8 years. You know, I never recommend anything I don't use anyway. That's just, you know, shameless. And if it has ever occurred, I've always said, you know, this is this person, I don't use them, blah, blah, blah. I like for people to come on here, show themselves, talk themselves. Everybody gets a shameless plug, you know, who they are. If anyone wants to sign up, they absolutely can. Of course, in this case, there is a discount code, which is beyond. Yeah, it's beyond capital letters, I take it.
Yeah, I don't think that our coupon code is that the field is case sensitive, but it will be set up with it in capital letters. I just sent it to one of my team members. I don't think he's read it yet, but we'll get it set up in the next few minutes, and I will send you a message directly and let you know when it's live.
And our lovely Cindy, I think, has posted your Facebook group, which is, we believe, Sellerbasics 2.0.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got the link there for anyone that wants to join the free Facebook group.
Absolutely.
You know, with all the details there as well. So, Joy, I really don't want to take up. God, how quickly has this gone? Hopefully you'll agree. We've had a huge amount of people. We've had over 100 people on this call tonight. So thank you everyone for sticking around and joining. Joy, thank you so much. You've been so candid in everything that you've spoken about. And I hope everyone will agree, very generous with your information. And also it's quite evident you guys absolutely know what you're talking about. So thank you so much for your time. It really is appreciated, especially at such a busy, crazy time.
I appreciate that. You know, I think that selling on Amazon I always say this, it is the greatest job in the world, except for my job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Amazon sellers, there are Amazon sellers out there who are literally building generational wealth for their families. I think selling on Amazon is the greatest job in the world. My job is better because I get to help sellers protect their ability to have that dream job, right? And so that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, because I love selling on Amazon, and I always have since I've been doing it, and I think everybody should do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. And it is that kind of real love-hate relationship sometimes, unfortunately, with them. It can be, it's almost like an abusive
It's a bad boyfriend situation. You know what I say? It's like that restaurant in town. Half the time that you go there, the food is not that good. And you say to your spouse, why do we come here?
Mm-hmm.
But chances are you're going to go there again. Why? It's the most convenient. They're open the latest. They have the nicest patio. They get the greatest. There's all those concessions that you make, even though half the time you can't stand them. You keep going back. That's selling on Amazon sometimes.
Absolutely. We've got to love to hate them for sure. There's lots of love for you in the comments. I'm sorry you can't see them, but you can go on and look at them afterwards. Joy, thank you so much. We'd love to have it. Yeah, we'd love to have you back at some time in the future, dependent on time and everything that's going on with the world. But guys, rest assured, I will grab that. Well, we know what the code is, and if there's anything else, Joy will give it to me. I will pop it in the group. I do recommend, and I can recommend, because I am a member of Sellerbasics myself, I would recommend. I do think it's pretty essential nowadays in Amazon. Everyone's saying what a great session it was. Guys, we're live again tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. We are treating you well this week. We have a free Q4 masterclass, sourcing masterclass with Johnny. And me, I'll be here as well. So we're live tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. And then next week, I've got another guest. I've got Hayden joining me next week. We're going to talk about all things PPC. So suspensions and deactivations, followed by PPC. What sexy stuff we treat you to. Honestly, we know how to party here at Beyond the Buy Box. So Joy, thanks. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, everyone. And I'll see you tomorrow. All right. Take care.
Thank you.